Shri H.N. Ashwath, Development Advisor, Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways. Mr. Rino Wiersma, Director, Van Ood India Private Limited. Mrs. Bernadette Goncalves Castro, Managing Director, SheQ CSR, Royal IHC. Welcome, ma'am. Mr. Sanjeev Kumar, Head Business Development, Adani Ports. Mr. Bram Vandipit, Managing Director, ISDPL. And last but not the least, Captain S. Divakar, MD and CEO, DCIL, who will also be donning the hat of the moderator. With the esteemed dignitaries on the dais, please join me in welcoming our Dr. M. Angamuthu, Chairman, DCI VPA, to set the welcome address.
Thank you. I'm comfortable here rather than there. Good afternoon, esteemed gentlemen on the dais, off the dais, and my dear friends from various shipping, maritime, and port fraternity. Welcome all you. And this is a great pleasure and privilege on behalf of Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways to welcome all of you. And it's our great privilege and endeavor to welcome from Dredging Corporation of India also, because you are all part and parcel of this growth story over a period of almost 35 years, and we intend to grow with all of you. We wanted to move fast, and we wanted to change the track in such a manner that like over a period of time, India's maritime potential should be or shall be exploited or explored to a next level. And in our
birth, the scale of operations or the economic of scale, the hardness of efficiency, the ship size continues to grow, thereby to provide the deeper and wider channels, docks, quay to handle the bigger ships. The dredging becomes an inevitable process for the ports to sustain business, economy, and environment. However, to receive larger ships, navigational channels, berths, harbors, basins may need to be deepened and widened further to the desired depths, and which is maybe in the nature of capital dredging or a rock strata, which is done through a capital dredging. Every capital dredging activity leads to the higher magnitude of dredging, maintenance, and uphold the created depth. This session underscores the pivotal role of dredging in the future port development. With this, I would like to start with the session. If I can ask Sri H.N. Aswad Saab, is the development advisor for the ports, shipping and waterways, that he can show some light on what are the key objectives outlined in the dredging industry and dredging guidelines released by the Ministry of Shipping, Government of India.
Thank you. Good afternoon. The Ministry of Port, Shipping and Waterways has the responsibility for the port development in the country. As we all know, the dredging is a symbiotic relation with the port. Unless you have draft, the port cannot survive, and the port with sufficient draft can only have the commercial value. So realizing that, the ministry has thought about introducing the sustainable dredging process and also the technical aspects which are very important for a dredging project. It may be the survey, bathymetric survey, or the geotechnical investigation, and all these things should be formulated so that the project proponent, which is mainly the port management team, they will be having some kind of a guidelines so that they can go ahead and adopt these guidelines and bring about this sustainable dredging. Together with the Honorable Prime Minister has been saying that we have to make this waste to wealth concept. Here in this industry, we are generating something like around 150 to 200 million cubic meter of dredged soil. So unless we think of a way to reuse it and also stop this pollution to the sea environment, it cannot go further. So in order to bring about this waste to wealth concept, we have thought about bringing one guidelines, and here in this dredging guidelines 2021, mainly it is prepared keeping in view the major ports in picture, but however it is general in nature, it can be adopted by all the ports, whether it is major ports or the other ports which are bigger than the nowadays major ports like Damra and other ports. So coming to the dredging guidelines, we have covered three aspects. One is the technical aspects, which is mainly to deal with the survey technology, whether it is a bathymetric survey or a geotechnical survey. Here there was some conflict. For example, even in bathymetric survey, some ports were thinking that the single beam survey would do or the multi-beam survey would do. All these conflicts were resulting in project delays, and also with the contractor there used to be a problem. Because the hydrographic survey, which is the main requirement, our Honorable Minister is joining now. We will welcome.
Check. We'd like to acknowledge the presence of our Honorable Minister, Honorable Minister of State for Ports, Shipping and Waterways, Government of India, Shri Shantanu Thakurji. Welcome, sir. I will humbly request Dr. M. Angamuthu, Chairman DCI LVPA, to kindly felicitate our Honorable Minister, Shri Shantanu Thakurji. Can we please have the memento on stage? And I will also request all the dignitaries on the dais to please keep standing for a group photograph. A truly important moment in this session. With that, I will hand it back over to Captain S. Divakar, sir. Right back to you.
Sir, please go ahead.
So thank you, sir. I was just explaining the background on the dredging guidelines we prepared in 2021. Mainly, we wanted to cover three aspects. One is this technical aspects. The technical aspects for a dredging projects include the bathymetric survey, geotechnical survey, which are very important. And the bathymetric survey, as I was telling earlier, there was some conflict about the even eco sounder, whether we have to go for a multi-beam survey or the single beam survey, or other whether initial survey what we have to adopt, in the interim survey what are the methods we have to adopt. All these things we have covered extensively in the dredging guidelines 2021, and also in the geotechnical investigation, because the geotechnical investigation will give the soil profile for a dredging project. And here over the 20-25 years, if you look into the dredging projects executed, the main conflicts coming is because of the soil profile. So here we have gone extensively into the details of how you have to conduct the geotechnical investigation. So we have involved so many institutions like IIT Bombay, IIT Madras, and also the stakeholders and the industry players. And we had an extensive workshop, and then we have come out with the dredging guidelines. And regarding this commercial aspects, we also had the problem related to cost discovery. So how to make the cost analysis and all. So here we have found that a institute by name Syria, which is based in Paris, they have made some extensive research on the subject. They have come out with a Syria formula where it is taking into account the capital cost recovery, operational cost, and other labor cost and fuel cost. And they would be working out scientifically how you can work out a dredging cost. So these commercial aspects would take into account all these aspects, including the tendering. This has been included in the dredging guidelines. And coming to the last but not very important one is the waste to wealth concept. The environmental measures what you have to take for undertaking a dredging project, and also reuse of dredge material. Suppose you are having a dredge material consisting of silty sand or the only sand, how you have to dispose? Because earlier the method was to dispose it to the far off sea in most of the cases. Here we have included a separate chapter on how you can reuse the dredging materials. So based on that, some of the ports have already started adopting this methodology, and the Cochin port has already introduced this auctioning of the dredge material. And in order to help further, we have also taken up a research project through IIT Bombay. They will be going into the analysis of the dredge material, which may be silt or clay, so that this also can be used by adding admixture, and so that the compaction and the compressive strength will be increasing, and it can be used for different purposes. So in order to reuse this dredge material, it is required that extensive chapters have been gone into, and accordingly we have included so that it can be adopted. Other than that, some commercial aspects like EPC type of contract or the PPP model, because most of the major ports, they do not have the resources to cover this dredging cost. So in order to make them recover, so we have introduced number of methodologies for even the mode of execution, like it may be PPP mode or the EPC mode, which can bring about extensive changes in the cost elements. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your insightful on dredging guidelines as per MPSO perspective, sir. Here I have Ms. Sri Ramanathan Palenappan, and who is the director for tendering, and also he has got a more than a decade field of in a decade of estimation. And basically, like you are from the NMDC, and then you have expertise in capital dredging, and you have a lot of cutters, and you are into the land reclamation. Mostly you are doing land reclamation. And now the talk of the day in India is right now, the government of India is also initiating the beneficial use of the dredge material. So I would like to ask you one thing on beneficial use of the dredge material and its perspective. By what is the concept of best use of the material, what you have been doing land reclamation and creation of the lands and islands, and also now you have come to the stage of creation of the mountains, hills. So I want you to just say, and what are the difference from the traditional sediment and the one what you have proposed, disposal proposal?
Hi, good evening. The traditional disposal, first let me explain the traditional disposal. Ashwant already explained. Either we dispose offshore or do in the landfills. That's what traditionally is happening in India. So in both cases, you are indirectly impacting the environment. By traditionally disposing it in a landfill, you transport it, you are making carbon footprint, you are polluting the environment, as well as when we dispose it in the seabed, you are again polluting the ecosystem itself. So the traditional method is indirectly affecting the environment already. So the right approach is basically beneficially use this dredge material. How to mitigate these environmental issues, what we have. There are three ways I see the benefits: environmentally, socially, and economically. Economically, the benefits are we use this material to reclaim as island extension towards the sea, or we make artificial islands offshore. I think this we are doing for the last 15 years. It's already proven thing already. And last year, we started to make hills, basically, in the middle of the city, overseeing the water, looking at the entire city, basically. These are the things we can use it. On top of it, we can use this material environmentally, how we can make it benefit out of it. If the material is really, really bad, we create something called bird islands, wetlands, marshes, use it for mangrove replantation. If the material is having a high organic content, it is good for mangrove replantation. Socially, how we can make it really benefit? Basically, working with the local communities, with some public-private investment, we can create land reclamation and use, by getting use of it, basically.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Ramanathan, for your inputs on best beneficial use of the dredge material. Now I invite Mr. Renaud Vesma to discuss upon how he feels, what are the current major trends shaping the global dredging industry, how are they are influencing the project methodologies and technologies.
I would like to do that, but I've also got a small presentation which I think can run it through. So maybe if somebody can put it. Yes, thank you very much for allowing me to speak here, to come back after 9 years. I lived in Mumbai from 2011 to 2014, and I was happy to be back here again. A little bit of context, our company is already working here for, let's say, a long time, I think 75 years now. In the Indian company, we are a 150-year-old company. And we are always in transition. We started off like a small company, making small things, and now we're making big things. And I think, come back on the trends now, we see a few trends. One is, let's say, climate mitigation, which is the mitigating for the CO2. So that's our net zero policy for 2050. And the other thing is assisting with the energy transition. We are an EPC contractor, we're a dredging contractor, but we also could help with green hydrogen infrastructure, pipe laying, but also with offshore wind. We're very big in offshore wind in the Netherlands. For today, I would like to focus a bit on the climate adaptation part. Maybe we can have the first slide. This is it. Oh, sorry, yeah. Thank you. So this is a typical, let's say, project which was assisted by the Indian government. They put a loan to the Maldives. The Maldives is a small country, as you're aware of, which has got a large problem with climate change. The sea levels are rising, but also storm surges are expanding, and they need more land because the population is growing. And they're running out of land. I think people who have been there, if you go to Male, it's very busy. So I think we have here working here on Adu City, and we've been doing the reclamation. And to give a bit of context, in the past we used to do the work and we have an environmental impact assessment of a few pages and we would start it. But nowadays the environmental impact assessments, they are maybe sometimes 200, sometimes 500, sometimes more pages. And when I started, we did not have any marine biologists in our service. And now we have 30 marine biologists working for us who are looking at coral relocation, at seagrass. So really the game is changing. We really need to go for net zero impact also. So we try to look at how can we minimize the impact. And I was happy to hear that Prime Minister Modi was also giving attention. He wants to do things green. And that's also in the core of our company. We would like to do a green project. And that's why we also hear that we relocated 70,000 colonies of coral. And we replaced some seagrass relocation, and further we did a lot of work for the community as well. So I think this is a nice example of environmentally friendly land reclamation, which is beneficial to nature, but also to the population. Maybe the next slide. Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry, I have to get used to this one. Yeah. So our strategy to net zero. Van Oort has committed before the IMO did to go for net zero before 2050. We're still working out to when that is, but probably we'll go a little bit before 2050 where we want to be net zero. But to understand a bit the impact it has for our company, because if we today say we want to buy a hopper, then we have 5 years we need before it's sailing, and then it needs to operate for 25 years. And I don't need to explain you if we're now in 2023 and I add 30 years, then we're already in 2050. So every vessel we decide to build today will be working in a net zero environment. So we need to know what kind of fuel we're going to use. So we as a company said LNG is currently I think a couple of years ago was the technology which was the most environmentally friendly, not giving the zero CO2, but it has a reduction on CO2. and especially also on the other effects for the environment, like the fine particles and the NOx and the sulfur. So I think we decided to go for this technology. This is a vessel which is dual fueled, completely inside electrical, so we generate power from MGO if we don't have LNG available, but we hope we can get more LNG available in the future in more ports, and we hope that India is also preparing to, let's say, supply bunkers in LNG, so we can work in a very friendly manner. We have ordered 3 of these vessels, maybe to give a little bit more flavor on the vessels themselves. We also have a lot of features where we regain electricity. We are using on board the LNG, let's say, expansion, because LNG will be expanded back to gas, and that gives cold. We use that for air conditionings on board. So we really also try to reduce, let's say, cost, and let's say make use of the energy we have. Maybe a little bit towards the future, we see biofuels is a big thing, but that cannot be expanded so far, because I think there's a waste product, and if you cannot scale it up too far. Another thing is bio-LNG we're looking at, and we are currently investing in green methanol vessels. And green methanol, we have ordered a vessel which is worth a few €100 million that can sail on green methanol and on normal fuels. But you should know probably that green methanol is currently not yet available. So we're already betting on a fuel which is still to come. And I think we're continuously trying to look at the market, and we encourage other people also to do the same, that we can come up to one standard to work on in the future. So we have 3 of these vessels, and we've got a small also LNG vessel, which is a grab dredger, which is working in the Netherlands. Then water injection dredging. I think we also have the Dredger working here in the Sagarmantan, so we're already in the Mumbai port using this bed level tool, water injection, for some time now, which is very successful, very CO2 friendly. And the next generation, we're also looking to let's say, more environmentally friendly methods. So this vessel can use biofuel, but also let's say the emissions are much less than a normal diesel, let's say, vessel. And this vessel is ready for the Euro Tier 3 requirements in the ports in Europe. And maybe India will adopt these as well in the future. And then also I think it's good that we have that as well. So on the left you can see a little bit what we do on the reduction on the various let's say, particles. And the NOx's are also less damaging to the environment. There may be a little bit background on the CO2 emissions. So if you look at the methods on the right side, you can see the WID working. I think in India context, I think it's always difficult because we are used to in the dredging industry, in the dredging guidelines, that it's going to be paid inside the hopper. And for a WID vessel, we are removing the material in the natural flow to deeper areas. And if required, we can also remove it with a hopper dredger then in a more efficient way when we have the time to bring it to an offshore dump. If you look a little bit at the figures on the left side, you can see that the CO2 emissions are 0.5 kilo per cubic meter removed. And if you compare that with some figures for a hopper dredger, if you go 5 kilometers, that's double the amount. And if you go to 15 kilometers, that's even triple the amount. So I think already by using this water injection dredging, I think we can already serve the environment by having less emissions per cubic meter dredged. And I think in the future, with all the developments, I think there will be much more requirement for WID, and let's say, and it would be good if we can, let's say, discuss with our clients on maybe more innovative ways on how to work with the WID and come to other methods than payment in the hopper, and let's say to save the environment. There may be something on digitalization and let's say what's going to be next, because on the one side we have the fuel which is going to be different, but also there's a lot of tendencies to use data and also AI, but also unmanned ships. So I can tell you that we have currently 4 unmanned vessels working for us. They have a small container on the shore, and a person, let's say, is using this to steer the vessel. It's got full multi-beam on board, so we can do all the surveys which we normally do. in a little bit quieter conditions, and we are currently developing the one on the right bottom. That's a vessel which is currently under construction, which will be operational in May. And that will have also multi-beam capabilities. That will have can work for 7 days autonomously and also from a distance, and can handle higher waves, maybe 2 to 3 meters. So I think that is going to be the next step, what we're going to do in surveying. And the top vessel is full electric, so no CO2 emissions. If we can get the fuel, let's say the electricity CO2 free, then that will be a zero emission vessel. And the bottom one is still going on fuel, but we're still looking on also alternative ways for that. So I think that is a little bit what we see on trends. So we are very much committed to create a better world for future generations. And we hope that we can, let's say, also bring this technology to India. And we really would like to work together with all our clients to see how we can make this work here in an environmentally friendly way. Thank you for your time. And I think afterwards we're going to have some Q&A.
Due to the paucity of time, our Honorable Minister would like to move, and I would request the Honorable Minister to come and just give us a keynote address, please.
Good afternoon to everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues, and fellow of the Maritime's enthusiastic program that we've seen from last day, and it will be continued to tomorrow also. So today we have gathered to delve into the pivotal stage of the maritime development in the dredging session of the Global Maritime India Summit 2023. Dredging, a fundamental practice within the maritime industry, holds the key to unlocking opportunities, addressing challenges, and ensuring sustainable growth for our waterways and the ports. The dredging industry is undergoing a major transformation within the rapid development in the technology, sustainability, and automation. The industry is now adopting sustainable dredging practices, ecologically friendly dredging equipments, and integrating the artificial intelligence to improve dredging operations. Moreover, joint initiatives, public-private partnership, and international cooperation and opening up new avenues for these creating of sustainable maritime infrastructure. Having clear and detailed criteria for the dredging project is of utmost importance. These including through planning, accurate execution techniques, and efficient implementation, cooperation, etc. Among governmental organization, industry, professional, and environmental specialists can assist in these determined standards. These promote both program and ecological conservation. It is esteemed that we prioritize sustainable dredging practices, esteemed management and channels upkeep in order ensure the smooth navigation of waterways, promote trade and safeguard an ecosystem eco-friendly along rivers and inland channels. It is essential that we take steps that ensure these prioritized and made in order to sustain the success of our waterways. Enhancing the port's capacity to accommodate larger vessels in a formidable task for demands the focused approach, achieving a balance between dredging operation to deep channels, preserving navigational safety, and taking environmental challenge in crucial. Utilizing state-of-the-art dredging equipments and advanced dredging technique enable efficient resolution of these issues. Implementing an online dredging monitoring system is crucial for collecting and analyzing real-time data, which is lead to significant importance in dredging efficiency and environmental monitoring. To object of our Sagar Samriddhi online dredging track system is to expedite the process of water and wealth and bring about transparency and efficiency. Moreover, reusing dredger materials of constructive applications such as land remarcation and habitat resolution is a must-have strategy of the promoting sustainability and reducing environmental impact. The cost of dredging can also reduce by implementing a dredging project that uses dredged materials in a way this is beneficial to the environment. We have implemented it across our parts. This is in line with the concept of waters and wealth and Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi ji's 3R reduced, reuse and recycle mantra. To propel the dredging industry forward, continue innovation in the dredging technique and equipment in an absolute necessary. It's imperative to the adopt best practice from these around the world, integrate automated uses, eco-friendly dredging equipments, and explore unconventional approach such as vacuum-assisted dredging. These messages are vital to optimizing dredging processes, and failure in implement them can be hinder process in this industry. The dredging sector is absolutely crucial to our maritime operation and to must take hold action to meet the expanding demands of the maritime trades, maintain our waterways, and secure the successful and environmentally responsible future. Let's work together to strategic invent and adopt sustainable method and deliver result. With that word, I like to conclude right now. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Manani Mantriji, thank you very much for those inspiring words. Now we'll take this opportune moment to announce a few MOU exchanges. The first up is the MOU with DCIL and National Marine Dredging Company, Abu Dhabi, on strategic partnership to explore suitable opportunities in marine dredging and marine construction work in India and abroad. The next MOU is between DCIL and IIT Chennai on bathymetry survey of all ports and training module related to dredging. To announce the next set of MOUs, please join me in welcoming Captain S. Divakar.
Yeah. Construction of 50 tons bollard pull hybrid harbor tugs for VPA. That's between VPA and HSL Hindustan Shipyard Limited. I request Mr. Venkateshwarlu, retired General Manager Business Development, to come on to the stage. The next one, mechanization of West Key 7 and 8 berths. VMCBTL, Mr. Abhichit Chandra Bothra, Director Bothra Group, and VPL. The next one is mechanization of East Key, berth number 7, that is between VM, TPL and VPA. JK Group of Chief Financial Officer, JM Bakshi Group. It's costing 202 crores for development and modernization. The next one, mechanization of West Key, berth number 6, ICTPL and VPA. And Chichitra Mishra, Director, YSL Group, 165 crores. This comes under port development modernization. The next MOU, enhancing the present capacity of pellet plant to 11 MMTPY in the existing lease land of 156.7 acres. This MOU between VPA and AMNS, that is MD Hussain, General Manager, pellet plant. 985 crores, port-led internationalization. That's it for the time being, and the remaining MOUs will be taken up at the end of the session.
माननीय मंत्री जी, आपका बहुमूल्य समय देने के लिए एक बार फिर बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence. Honorable Minister sir, may I please request you to join us for a group photograph? With that being said, I will hand over the session further to Captain S. Devakar.
Now moving on to Mrs. Benedette G. Castro. She is the MD in IHC. IHC, of course, has got a strong emphasis in sustainability and environmental responsibility in the designs and operations, and they try to create equipment and solutions that minimize environmental impact. And here I would like to ask her, what are some of the leading sustainable dredging techniques that are being employed to minimize the environmental impact and promote ecosystem health?
So I'm going to tell you about the technical developments that we are doing at IHC, because we are a technology supplier. So I will focus on the technologies we are developing. We have a mission as Royal IHC. We want to play a leading role in the new maritime sector that's coming. And that means that we want to develop very efficient and very sustainable solutions for our customers. So I will give you some examples that we already are developing. Zero emission supply, service operation vessels. For the offshore sector, we already have basic designs. We have zero emission dredging hoppers, and we are now also developing and launching electric cutter suction dredgers. And it's not for nothing. If you look at the emission of a vessel, the environmental impact is very high during the operational phase. 98% and sometimes more of all environmental impacts originate during operation of the vessels. So it's only very logical that we as technology suppliers focus on decreasing the emissions. And of course, LNG is already not new for us, so I will start already with the hydrogen. We already developed 5 hopper dredgers running on LNG and 1 very big cutter suction dredger. So that's for us not the future anymore, it's the present. And we are looking now into the future technologies. This is an example. For dredging in coastal areas in harbors, we have now leaf hopper. It's called the leaf hopper, low emission adaptable fuel. We have a few parallel designs. You can run with biodiesel, you can run with hydrogen or with methanol. So we can, you know, the owner can choose what is for them more convenient. And if you see, a lot of efficiency measures as well. Because together with the renewable fuels, you also need to have very efficient equipment so that you're needing less of these renewable fuels, so then you are in a positive spiral for sustainability. And this vessel in particular, we are developing it together with the Dutch government. So we are now in the detail engineering already, and we hope to build it maybe next year. We have also a series of electric beavers. I will show you a movie if we have the time in the end. So we offer a total solution to our customers, that we are replacing all the diesel engine with electrical components on board. And we can do this as a new build, but also as a retrofit package. So we are helping also existing customers to go green with having a retrofit package. And we also help them with what kind of shore power can you use? Because you need a cable to the shore, and that can really vary according to the situation of the project. So we also offer advice what makes sense for these customers. Last but not least, we are also developing a series of electric plane suction dredgers that are quite applicable for reservoir dredging. That's something that's getting more and more acute all over the world, that a lot of electricity dams and water reservoirs are becoming clogged because of all the silt accumulating. So we have also a solution for this, and it's very modular. You can have the depth that you need that by combining different types of pontoons. And of course, we have also other solutions, you know, where I focus on equipment, but we also have, for example, turbidity limiting technology. For areas that are very sensitive, that you don't want to have turbidity, we have now a turbidity reduction valve. And we are also starting circularity developments with our customers by recycling the wear components, because this is one of the critical materials that need attention on a dredging vessel. So now I have some time to show the movie, I see. And because a movie can be more, more informing than many words, so I will just let it play to show you how we developed the Beaver Electric. So just to finish my presentation, as you see from our presentation, there is not one fuel that will be the silver bullet for the future. We need to be prepared for a range of fuels, from electric to methanol, depending on the scale of the vessel. And we are developing all these fuels in parallel so that we are ready to supply these solutions to our customers. And that's what I wanted to tell you.
Thank you. Thank you for the insight of this sustainable dredging and the equipment what you're developing at the IHC. Now I invite Sri Sanjay Kumarji in the panel discussion by asking what are the primary objectives of dredging in the inland waterways, how does it contribute to marketing, maintaining navigability, and so that you require an introduction for Sanjay Kumar. Is known person both the port industry as well as marine industry. Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon to all. I think since I'm representing Adani Port today, you all know that the port, Adani Port, is known for the largest port in India. And so, of course, dredging is also the backbone of them. And we have been reclaiming, we have been doing the maintenance, capital dredging all together. But today I'm talking about inland waterways. The reason being that in the last half a decade, we have in 2018, we got the first opportunity to maintain the inland waterways NW1 from Farakka to Kalgaon for 5 years, and fortunately we have completed this year that one. So, and we are still doing 2 more stretches in NW1. So the thought process is the lesson what we have learned over there, because half a decade is too long. So we would like to share something, and that is what was being asked also. Just to tell you that when we started in the beginning, our focus was that how best we can address the deliverables, because we had to go for 3 meters depth, LAD, they call it, less assured depth, because the water column should be 3 meters. And at the same time, we had to maintain a 45-meter width. So we had a challenge because we had to look for the right equipment to do that. Initially, we started with a 6.5 series from ISC. And of course, that part, I should say, the water column was there. So it is good to maintain. And when we are going more upstream in the river, then definitely the water columns gets minimized. So then we have to think for what kind of equipment we can. And with the help of ISC, we had modified the 40 series. I think some of you might have seen in the presentation by Mr. Jaco. So we try to develop an equipment which suits to the requirement. So that was the challenge ahead of us. And moving in the beginning, I should say the first year was definitely the learning period for us, because things were changing very fast. When you are working in a river, you cannot predict it. And especially working in Ganga, which is treated as a goddess in our country, where you have a lot of challenges other than the natural. You have the social challenge. You have, it is being a part of parcel of the business of a lot of people who are along the bank living over there. So we have to take care of a lot of challenges. Moving forward, we also see that in the inland waterways, there are man-made challenges also associated with it. Especially, you need to know the air draft, the bridges are there which needs to cross, whether there are sufficient height available or not. The collapse of the banks, that is another problem. So, in a nutshell, when we gone through the whole process in the last 5 years, we found that if you really want to maintain that one, then you have to do, or rather you have to play with the water current over there, because that is very, very important. And if you look backwards, even the old technologies like bundaling and one of the technology like vanes, underwater vanes, there are multiple technologies which is evaluating right now that can be used to streamline the flow so that you will get the water column for your vessels. So these are the things what we learned. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your insight. And now I call upon Mr. Brahm, and who is working as a Managing Director ISDPL and Area Manager for South Asia Dredging, and he has been there for the last 20 years. And Demi is the one which is operating one of the most powerful cutter section dredger that is characterized, which can dredge up to 100 MPa strength. I would like to ask him one question that, what are the perspective of capital dredging? What do you think of the ISDPL perspective as far as the rock dredging in India is concerned?
Thank you, Captain Iwaka, for the introduction. I did not present a presentation as it was a panel discussion, so I cannot show you a picture of the Spartacus, but you can see it at other boats in Hall D. Basically, how do we see the works, the capital works going forward in India? I think in the next 5 to 10 years, a lot of development is happening in India, and a lot of ports are at the beginning stage of being built or are currently being built. So in that we see quite a big investment in India that all parties are trying to establish their own ports, which is a good development to then service the hinterland. I should also ask Sanjeev sitting next to me, not talking about inland waterways because they're owner of half of the ports, what they're doing, but I'm sure they're also working on their own plan to expand the ports. But to integrate a bit the sustainability part, I think also it's important that regulation is put in place that forces people to reuse material, because only then the cost becomes an additional cost at times. People will have to do the extra effort, and you will come to a more sustainable solution. So putting the legislative framework in there, not just a guideline, I think is also a very important step in the process.
Yeah, thank you, Brahm, for your thing. And coming back to Sri H. Naswaji on dredging guidelines, and so I just wanted to know, are there any incentives and support mechanism outlined in our guidelines to promote innovation and technology adoption in the dredging industry?
See, the dredging guidelines basically covers all the, like I told earlier, the technical aspects and the commercial aspects. Coming to the incentives, the Maritime India Vision has now given a task, like all the major ports should move towards having at least 18 meters draft. In at least 1 or 2 berths, they should have 18 meter draft, because whatever the 6th generation vessels or the 7th generation vessels, we are able to receive the present draft what we are having. So in the future, to receive the higher parcel vessels, we would be requiring at least around 18 meter draft at all the major ports. Other than that, even the ports like Dhamra and all, they would be gearing up for 18 meter draft. Of course, the Gangavaram and the Krishnapatnam, already they are having 18 meter draft. But here, the volume of capital dredging coming up, because when you are moving from 14 meter draft, which are there at present in some 7 to 8 major ports, when we are moving towards 18 meter draft, you can imagine the quantum of dredging required at these ports, which will be voluminous. Now we are having total dredging quantum of around 160 million cubic meter put together. So in the coming years, we are expecting by 2030, once we have to achieve this 18-meter draft, we will be having something like around 300 to 400 million cubic meter. That is one incentive we are looking forward. Other than that, this assured depth concept, like what we were having earlier, the quantity-based dredging, where we had that a kind of estimation on the quantity, and the contractor firm has to prepare themselves only for that much quantity. Now with the assured depth concept coming into picture, they will be having more dredging days in their contract, so that by the time they would be completing, I am thinking that there will be more dredging quantity and more contract value will be there. These are some of the incentives built up from the India Maritime Vision 2030, as well as by adopting this reuse of dredge materials, what I was saying. Now we have given freedom for the contract firm to quote based on the whatever they are going to get from the dredge soil. Suppose they are going to get something like around 10 million cubic meter of dredge soil, which they can auction it themselves. They can get the money from there also. So this is also, you can consider it as an incentive. But all these things are built up, and so that the contract, whoever is the dredging firm, they are not at loss, but they are at gain. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your insight with regard to the dredging guidelines and then what are the incentives circulators. Now, moving on to Mr. Ramanathan, and I would like to ask you, and you can explain to our audience, what are the environmental benefits associated with the beneficial use of dredge materials when it comes to creating islands and then restoration of the lands, and in an economic point of view, how it's going to be beneficial?
I think the major challenge today we have when it comes to dredging contracts is how to use this material in a beneficial way without affecting the environment, or with a very minimum environment. Every year in the Middle East, at least as a company, we dredge 100 million cube every year. This year, in the last 10 months, we already dredged more than 110 million cube in the last 10 months. And in Europe, they dredge 30 to 40 million cube per annum, and in the US, they dredge around 200 million cube per annum. All these material are used for some purpose, basically. It is doing some purpose with a very, very minimum environmental impact. As a company, as NMDC, I can say we dredge 100 million cube, pretty much 95 million cube is used as reclaimed land, either in the form of reclaiming towards the sea and used for the same project, particularly one particular project because it's topic related to ports. We have built the Khalifa port in the last 6-7 years. We are doing 6 phases of Khalifa port. We have done several kilometers of quay wall to -19, -20, and the channel to -19.5. We finished the job in 2-3 years. We have dredged 60 million cube and reclaimed 40 million cube, and we made land out of it. And the port was developed on top of the reclaimed land. Okay, there are some environmental challenges when we reclaim it. The environmental activists talk about it, but there are mitigation measures to do the reclamation as well. With a lot of mitigation measures, with the environmental restrictions, we do reclamation with silt screens, with some doing good reclamation monitoring will really benefit to do the reclamation, meeting the criteria, whatever the design criteria is. When it comes to Middle East, the reclamation criteria is very, very stringent. There is something called fill spec, and there is something called performance spec. Fill spec means we need to reclaim the material within 15% of the silt content. There is plasticity index, liquid limit, a lot of stuff. Shell content less than 10%. There are a lot of things in this criteria. So even with these environmental restrictions, with these mitigation measures, we can do reclamation using this material. It is proven already. Last 15 years we are doing it. And also we build offshore islands, 70 kilometers offshore. We build islands using the dredge material. We have already done 10-15 islands basically we have done in the last 10 years for ADNOC, for oil exploration. Now we are doing it for gas exploration. And we have reclaimed it in a most sensitive, environmental sensitive area, UNESCO protected area. We have reclaimed 3 islands. It's called the Hale Field, where you have a lot of environmental restrictions, seagrass, dugongos, a lot of things. So we do have mitigation measures to reclaim in the most sensitive environmental location. Then why not in a normal area? It is really doable. It's done already. We have done it in the past. Now in the recent days, we reclaim hills. Now the islands have become old techniques. Now we build hills. As I said that, we reclaimed 50 million cube in the last 7 months, pumping to 50 meters high, 55 meters high. They make hills with berms and they make villas to look like Europe in the middle of a city, in a very hot city called Abu Dhabi, basically. So with the environmental mitigation measures, this material can be utilized to reclaim. Basically, what we dredge in that region, the geology differs from country to country. There in Middle East, mostly we dredge carbonate content material, which is as calcareous material. When we dredge this, when you crush this, you create a lot of silt. So when you can manage a very silty material and reclaim it, I think in India we can easily do it. Normally how we do it, when we crush it, you create fines. When you pump 4 or 5 kilometers, you create even more fines when it is going through the pipes. So in the end, when we dispose it, it comes with 30% fines. Still we manage the reclamation basically. For the reclamation requirements, 15% silk content, that's a general requirement in the Middle East. Whereas if some of the clients has to be educated, that fine content is not a critical factor. When we meet the performance criteria, which is the loading criteria for any island, 200 kPa or 150 kPa, whatever requirement for the port facilities, for the container terminals, we can use it with even more silk content with the different compaction techniques. We can make this island really suitable and build the port on top of it basically. And on the environmental aspect, I can give you an example. In Egypt, we have dredged a lake for 120 million cube. Last 4 years, we dredged this lake. It's coming in a delta area. I don't have a presentation to show the scale of the dredging, what we do, because I was never thinking that's a presentation allowed here. That's through conversation only I need to explain. It's a delta region where you have, when it's a storm or kind of a bad weather, it comes and basically spoils the cultivation land, all those things. So we dredged 120 million cube of sand in 5 years, and we made some sand dunes as a buffer zone. During extreme weather condition, it will protect this wetland, the delta region land. And also we created some wetlands to improve fishing, farming. So there are benefits using this dredge material. If this material is really bad or there is no use for this material, we can use this kind of stuffs. If the material is having high organic content, or having high nutrition, we can still use it for agricultural purposes. There are a lot of benefits. I don't feel this is a waste as we are doing it for the last 15 years, so why not? Anybody can do it. And 95% of the dredge material, whatever we dredged, we used it for reclamation purposes, basically. And 2 more things I want to add it here, because I don't have a presentation, so I need to think and tell. We can use this material for beach nourishment purposes. If the material is really good, we can use this for beach nourishment purposes. There are a lot of long coastlines we have. We can use it for beach nourishment, or we can use it for, as I said, that coastal zone erosion protection works. Basically, this material can be used as a buffer when it comes to erosion, because when we try to build sea wall or any rigid structure is more expensive. So it's a replacement is basically use this material as a buffer to protect the coastal zones, basically. I think I answered your questions. I don't have a presentation. I can show you otherwise how much dredging we do every year.
Right, sir. Thank you very much for your in-depth perspective. So now moving on to Mr. Renaud Vassema. And what is the role of digitization and data-driven technologies playing in our optimizing dredging operations, and how these companies are leveraging these tools for a better outcome of the efficiency?
Yes, maybe give you some background. I think when I was starting my career 26 years ago, I think we used to fax 6 pages of data to our head office, and I think nowadays it's gigabytes of data. We are transferring it straight away from the vessel to the head office, so we even can do administrative work in the head office about our equipment, and we're really collecting this data to perform better, to understand for next time what we need to do better. We're also following competition, so we also follow DCI vessels, so we see what your production is. Through AIS and some smart data, I think we can have a little bit of an idea what is being done. So I think we try to use that for better estimation of our productions, and maybe also looking at people. I just told you about the environmentalists. We also now have 30 data people working for our office. We're doing a lot with Power BI, but also dashboards. We're trying to improve on the cost side, on the production side, and the estimating side, to do everything digital. And I think that's helping making it more efficient and being better in estimating future works.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Mrs. Castro by asking, what is the role does advanced technology play enhancing sustainability in dredging operations? And can you highlight a specific technology that making significant impact as long as looking forward for the dredging operations?
There are 2 places where you can optimize. Now it's on, yeah. In existing vessels, there are mainly two areas where you can go for the optimum. You know, on the propulsion side and on the dredging equipment side. There you can save a lot if you are using the vessel efficiently. We have, for example, data on our pump control system that we offer as an option to customers, that you save easily 20% fuel if you control your dredging process well enough, and that translates in overall 10% roughly in fuel efficiency. But when you really want to go further, you need to go to cleaner fuels, to renewable fuels. And that's the way forward to all of us, because we really need to get rid of the combustion of fossil fuels. So that's really the next step that we have to go towards in the future. And it's quite a challenge, because the equipment is still not available, the fuels are still expensive. But at some point, when the market is not going to fix itself, as some people sometimes believe, you really need government intervention. And what I see happening now is that people are going to put a price on emissions. And there's this like a magical number when CO2 costs more than 100 euro per ton. Then suddenly all the cleaner fuels and these expensive new types of engines become more cost-effective than fossil fuels. So, you know, we can offer a lot of technology, but you need to go hand in hand with legislation as well.
Thank you so much. And would like to ask last question, Mr. Sanjay Kumar. There are certain specific challenges associated with the inland dredging, and you are not into dams, desiltation, and reservoirs dredging as of today, but execution of such kind of a dredging requires a technology and equipment. So can you throw some light on this desiltation of reservoirs and dams, please?
Sure. Of course, we are not yet into that business, but we have evaluated a couple of projects. Especially in India, we know that most of the dams are 50 plus age. So there are a lot of, storage capacity augmentation would require, or restoration rather, I can use the word. So definitely, I always say in dredging, you have to select the right equipment, then only you can get the best result. So if you are doing a desiltation of dam, definitely you are not really working in a high current as like what we are working in the inland waterways, where you have one-sided current because it's going through us downstream. But in the dam, it's more still water. But the challenges would be, I should say, the weed, because there are a lot of vegetation would be there, so you have to take care of that. You have maybe, and another thing, the disposal of those material, because dredging usually has three parts. One is dislodging the soil, the second transportation, and third is disposal. So we have to work on all the three aspects, then only we can get the best result of it. So like for the dislodging, of course, you may have to go deeper, so you may require something which can dredge up to a deeper depth, but at the same time with the less productivity, because there you cannot really pump a material in a huge quantity. So those things you have to take care, and also the disposal, because usually in the dam, I should say the social impact would be there, because usually those are the cultivated lands and people are living around, so you have to think about that also. You may have to create some area from where you can take it. And another thing which I also support about this waste to wealth concept, that could also be implemented there, because the material which is coming out from there can be used. So then you can create a series of stakeholders who can take care of that. So that could be the approach. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And now I want to ask Mr. Brahm. DEMI Group is foreseen to overcome challenges involved in capital dredging as well as the rock dredging. And how does this DEMI approach environmental protection and conversation when conducting such kind of a capital and rock dredgings?
I think the main challenge starts when the project is at inception, when you get your client data, assuring that what you have to go to do is properly investigated. Because we see a lot of times that these soil investigation reports are of not the best quality. So assuring that we know what we will have to do is one of the big challenges, let's say. Once you have the project, you have to make a good assessment of how to plan these works, and as was said, use the right tool for the right job. But this soil investigation, we see times and times again, that's penny wise, money foolish. So if you don't spend money on this, you don't know what the job is about, and you will mobilize the wrong equipment, and you will have potentially a lot of worse outcomes. Plannings cannot be adhered to. So I think for us, ascertaining a quality soil investigation, advising our clients, and really working with them even before a contract award at the inception stage is key. We also have a geologist which we then depute to this client for a month or 2 months to go and witness this and to advise the client on how to do these things. So I think that is a key aspect. During the works, of course, you have all various aspects, and that is really site-specific. Material can be harder in one spot, less hard at the other spots. And India is a very big continent, so I think that's a bit addressing the point on the challenges is mainly on data acquisition and making sure that we know what we have to do. I think that's the main challenge for us.
Yeah, thank you very much, Brahm, and thank you all panelists for giving us a in-depth perspective of each questions whatever we have asked. And now it's time for the question answers from the audience. I would like to take 3 questions. We have a paucity of time, and we'll be limited to 3 to 4 questions maximum.
Can you share mic?
Thank you. My name is A.K. Gupta. At the outset, I must say, wonderful discussions, and it has been a learning opportunity for me. In the morning, I learned about submerged veins, very innovative method. Sir, I would like to ask a little bit more about WID. You said about the disposal of dredged material in your presentation, WID. Yeah, so later you tell us about that. Now, we have heard everything, all the discussions. Zero emissions is the buzzword these days. Whether LNG is a solution or biofuel is a solution, ammonia, hydrogen, I'm still confused. Economic life of a vessel, let it be dredger or anything, is something about 25 years. And LNG, Madam rightly said, is for the present. Yes, it has methane slip. It is not zero emission. So we are looking for alternative fuels. And the industry is not clear. Availability of fuel is one issue, and second, the cost. So that clarity is still not coming. And lastly, it's not a question, my submission, the cost of achieving zero emissions, little bit the customer has to bear, little bit the vendor has to bear, but government has to chip in. I think that is what Captain Divakar was asking, incentives, something. So anyway, on the whole, it was a wonderful discussion. Thank you.
Next.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Prasad Rao from ISDPL. We have been discussing this reuse of dredged material. It's a very good concept, but the challenges from the contractor's perspective, basically dredging contractor's perspective, once you start reusing the dredged material, there are many agencies involved where, like, no, you need to pay the royalty, you need to get the clearances, and who is the stakeholder there? Is it the contractor responsible for obtaining all these permissions? Then it's going to be a Herculean task. So you need to run to pillar to post various government agencies and all that. So I would request the ministry to evolve a guidelines. Basically, when you start using this dredged material, then there should be a single window where you get all the permissions at one stage. Like whether it is royalty payment or the sand mining, whether it is under the control of the port or it comes under the state government. So we need to have a clear picture, and we have to formulate a clear guidelines how to use this dredged material, there should be a single window where we get all the permission. This is only a suggestion from the contractor's point of view.
The ministry is aware the material, whatever is coming out of the basin or the channels, in some cases, if it is in a river, it belongs to the Department of Mines. So otherwise, within the port limit, whatever the material is there, it is coming to the port itself. So here, wherever the mines are involved, we have already asked the ports to talk to that particular department. So if it is within the port limits, because the Cochin port has faced this kind of a problem, but they have gone into the court also and they have taken the permission, and accordingly now they are auctioning the material, whatever the dredging they are doing, that they are getting around 30 to 40 crores annually. So that kind of mechanism already they have developed. And the same thing the other ports also, wherever, and in the first place, because some ports are telling that the material is silt and clay, which cannot be used. So first this thing is how to analyze and how to make use of this material. That is the first stage. Then comes the next stage of how these other departments are involved. This will take some time, but we have to set the things in motion. So we have given some freedom, and let us see in the coming years, once the mechanism is set in, it will be easier for the dredging companies also to make use of this concept. Thank you.
Yeah, here I would like to ask Mr. Ramanathan, since you have been doing this reclamation and beneficial of the dredged material, what is the system you follow? How do you address in Middle East?
At least in UAE, the client takes this responsibility, and the dumping areas are already identified in the EAD document. When they do the environmental impact assessment, the area for the dumping is already identified. They don't charge fees. So that's a designated location we need to go and dispose. I know in Egypt, in some specified contract, they specify the dumping charges, basically per cubic meter, this many pounds. They clearly specify in the contract, and we need to consider when we price it, that charge we need to consider. In general, in Middle East, they already assign this area as disposal location, or a depleted disposal area, or depleted borrow area as a disposal location, basically, without any charges. The government supports this.
Yeah, any questions from the audience?
So,
One sec, sir. You're getting a mic.
yeah. So, yeah, just one question.
So you'll have to just keep the question short, so we have plenty of time and we need to complete the session. You have to just keep it on, sir, not here.
See, you are asking about dredging in lake. See, what I found was there are some chemicals available which encourages a microbe to eat away all the organic matter, and that reduces the silting quite a bit. You know, I was trying to do it for Virar and Powai Lake. Good solutions are available without going for dredging. This is one point I wanted to make. Second is my experience with water injection dredging is we save 1/3 of the cost and 1/10 of the time. That is in 10% of the time taken by normal grab dredger, we are able to do water injection dredging. And 1/3 costs are even little less than 1/3. But the problem is now, the people who are hiring this water injection dredger, they are giving it only on daily charter and not on the basis of Beti measurement. That is why government agencies are reluctant to take them. But I wish very much government encourages and sees the results, because they are giving every day they are giving what is the bathymetric chart. But only thing is they say, no, we will charge only by daily charter and we are not bound by output. So if those agencies change their attitude, or if the government officers are bold enough to try this, it will work in at least Maharashtra and Gujarat ports, it will work very well. I have seen myself, and this is giving for my company a benefit of 10 crores every year. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Your suggestions are well taken. And the last question from the audience, please.
Good afternoon, sir. My question is to Aswath, sir. Sir, you are aware that various DPRs and concessions are being awarded based on the preliminary investigations. But later on, when developer enters into it, as Braham also mentioned, that there may be a substantial gap in what has been initially envisaged. So what happens sometimes, it impacts the viability of the project to a greater extent. We all are aware that dredging and reclamation costs are the majority cost component in a project. So, sir, my question is, do we have some policy or the framework, or we have some provisions of some viability gap funding and all, so that such projects can be taken up? One. Then the second question is, you have also mentioned about waste to wealth. So, say for example, in dredging, we found the material which is not suitable for reclamation. So, suppose if an organization taking some additional measures to use that particular waste to wealth, so is government supporting such initiatives of taking that measures to compensate for the additional costs, etc.?
First, coming to this viability gap, whatever you were telling, the ministry has gone into the details before formulating this dredging guidelines. We have consulted a number of institutions, the stakeholders and all. Here what happens is, for a dredging project, if you have maximum data available, whether it is hydrographic data or the geotechnical data, it gives sufficient, what you call, for quotation and all, it gives you sufficient data. So then you will be not be ending up losing some of your contract value. That is one thing. Wherever there is a viability gap is there the government will pitch in. Where there is, because in the national interest, they have to go for that thing. There they will do it. Otherwise, we have asked all the major ports to put maximum data. Suppose they are having data of around 10 to 12 years of all that stretches wherever the geotechnical data should be available. They have to put it along with this tender document, so that the contract firm will make an assessment. Accordingly, he can make the quotation. That is one aspect we are doing it. Otherwise, wherever there is a big project where there is a viability gap is there, so the viability gap funding to the extent of possible in consultation with the Ministry of Finance, we will be taking it up. Regarding the second question regarding this waste to wealth concept, your point is well taken, because this, whenever you are having this clay and silt, there may be necessity for adding some admixtures which will increase the compressive strength of the soil. That we have already awarded one project to Professor D.N. Singh, IIT Bombay. If you have some material coming out, or if you have some suggestion, you can make suggestion to that research project. And also, in case you are already into it and you have made some developments, you can share with the other institutions other than the major ports also. So they can adopt that and they can utilize. Because something like 80 million cubic meter, instead of going to waste, whether by your method it can be reused, it is well taken. That's all.
Well noted, sir. Thank you.
Adding to Mr. Ashwant's answer, is nothing called uncompactable. There is a way to do it. It's all time and cost, basically. That is why when we do the reclamation, they try to make the silt content less than 15% to do deep compaction, which is the most cheapest solution to reclaim a land with certain criteria. But if you have enough time and some more cost we can spend, any material can be compacted except some gypsum material, which they need to dispose it. So there are room. It's all time and cost, basically. Now currently we are doing a 350 million cube reclamation job. There we have this kind of problem. So we need to educate the client basically that it doesn't mean always you need to meet the fill spec. You can, without meeting the fill spec, still we can compact and give the requirements of the design criteria. Whatever is 200 kPa or 150 kPa, still it is achievable and doable. It's all time and cost basically. It requires more time when the soil is very bad for preloading or stone columns, something. There is a room to do it actually.
Yeah, thank you very much. We already exhausted our time, so we can't take any more questions. And thank you, panelists. And we are ending this panel discussion, and I'd like to announce a few more pending MOUs to be exchanged. So in a couple of minutes, we'll be announcing this. Yeah, construction of Intel flyover at Visakhapatnam Port Sagarmala Development, Mr. Sri Dilip Kumar, Managing Director. It's a 227 crores port development and modernization. Please be seated, sir. Please be seated. And I'll read out few of the MOEs, though they are not present over here. That's a training partner for Visakhapatnam Port Authority conducting training program. That's a Center of Excellence Maritime Shipbuilding, SIMS, Mr. Sethu Madhavan, and it's a training partner. Allotment of land and a long lease term, that is 14164 square meters in Salagrampuram for non-port related activities, that is between VPA and Sardar Sri Infra JV Venkanna. This is a port-led infrastructure and it's about 200 crores. Allotment of land and long-term lease, that's about 7689 square meters at north side of Harbour Park under non-port related activities, that is between Hindustan Enterprises and VPA, it's coming to 110 crores. Allotment of land and long-term lease, that is 40468 square meters in Exim Park area for the purpose of covered storage godowns between VPA and Shravan Shipping Service Private Limited. This is about 50 crores port-led industrialization. Allotment of land and long-term lease 2267 square meters in Salagrampuram for non-port related activities, that is between VPA and Kapir Swim Frappi, that is Mr. Prabhakar. It's about 40 crores, comes under port-led industrialization. Allotment of land on long-term lease, that is 6310 square meters in western sector area for the purpose of development of integrated warehousing complex. Mr. Chatterjee and Visakhapatnam Private Limited comes to 120 crores port-led industrialization. And upgradation of existing MCHV railway track up to silo and lying in reversal line length of 1.48 kilometers to shoot EOL operations. That's between IRPCL and VPA. Renovation of and refreshment of office building Visakhapatnam Port Authority, that is between NBCC and VPA. That's about 70 crores port development modernization. And modernization of Visakhapatnam Port Fishing Harbour at Visakhapatnam, that is Shruti Contact Private Limited and VPA. It comes to 152 crores. It's a community development. Thank you very much. With this, all the MOEs have been exchanged. And now I would hand over to MC. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. As we are fully aware that we have a paucity of time, let's quickly move on to the presentation of mementos for our incredible panelists and certainly for everyone being so generous with their knowledge. Please join me in welcoming Dr. M. Angamuthu, Chairman DCI VPA, to give away the first memento to Mr. Ramanathan Palaniappan, Director, NMDC, Abu Dhabi. Shri H.N. Aswad, Development Advisor, Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways. Mr. Reno Veersma, Director, Van Oord India Private Limited. Mrs. Bernadette Goncalves Castro, MD, SheQ CSR, Royal IHC. Mr. Sanjeev Kumar, Head, Business Development at Adani Ports. And lastly, Mr. Pram Vandipit, Managing Director, ISDPL. Thank you to all the esteemed dignitaries on the dais. With that being said, I would like to invite Captain S. Divakar, Managing Director and CEO of Dredging Corporation of India, to give the concluding remarks and the vote of thanks.
Thank you, panelists, for taking your time off and be part of this special occasion, technical occasion and a session on dredging. And your insights have been very, useful for us, and we have got very meaningful discussions on this. And thank you, everyone. And especially I thank all of you for making it this possible, and you all have come taking your time off, and then you have asked valuable questions. I think this session has been very enlightening. It's going to be useful for dredging industry and also dredge builders and contractors and also the regulators, everybody. So there are a lot of questions have been involved in this, and we have thought of it, and we brought all these questions and answers, and especially for this session. And especially thank our chairman for organizing such a wonderful dredging session, technical session. And it was supposed to be the 19th, but we brought it one day before by requesting it. And also especially I thank Ministry of Ports, Shipping, Waterways, Mr. H.N. Aswath, taking a long lead in this for organizing this. And he has been instrumental for all the dredging contractors and, propelling this dredging innovative dredging, and also coming out with the guidelines as far as the dredging policy is concerned. Thank you once again, sir, for arranging such a wonderful dredging session. And also thank you, everybody. Thank you, media. Thank you, our FICCI and all other team members for attending and making it successful. Thank you once again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. With that being said, this session comes to a close. I'm your host, Hardik Vaidya. And all the delegates, I request all of you to please collect your kits in case you haven't from the registration counter. All the delegate kits need to be collected from the registration counter.